In general, our attempt to bring together saving the planet with spiritual practice is met in two different ways. People who are committed to having an impact on the world come and say, you know, you're really wasting your time with all this meditation. There's no way you're actually going to change the world from the mountains of Vermont with a Sangha of people dedicated to spiritual practice. So why don't you just give up on the whole integration of these two? And then people who are familiar with spiritual practice say, you know, you really can't do spiritual practice if you're trying to have an impact on the world. So why don't you give up on the integration of these two? And so it's challenging to explain to people what we're doing, despite the fact that, to me, it doesn't seem very revolutionary. It seems quite natural. And I'd like to give you a sense of that perspective. So, the great master Dogen Zenji talked about the spiritual path as casting off body and mind. And the Zen master who we have trained under, Shodo Harada Roshi, has said that casting off body and mind is the one and only spiritual path. That's what it is, to walk a spiritual path. That is the path to enlightenment. So we have this aspect of practice of casting off body and mind, and of course that's something that we emphasize here with our teachings and our techniques and our schedule. Now I'd like to bring our attention to the current moment in the world, because it's hard to see this. You can't actually just quote a great Zen master and understand the modern world situation. So I'd like to put it in a certain way. This century is characterized by the creation of new kinds of bodies and minds. That is what we're doing right now. Big picture, what this century is about is producing and consuming new bodies and minds. New types of bodies, maybe cyborg bodies, new types of minds. And AI is just one example of this general trend. Of course, we're giving AI a lot of attention right now, but as we say so often, we're giving it attention because it's getting attention. There are a lot of existential threats, and AI, of course, is one of them. But AI is basically a way to make a new type of mind. You might say an extremely intelligent one. But nowadays, people are talking more and more about how maybe AI is conscious, and maybe it has desires, and maybe we could upload ourselves and experience this kind of mind. So try to look at current events in this context. There have been a lot of things that have happened through history. And right now, the thing we're focusing on is creating new kinds of bodies and new kinds of minds. And so we have a situation now where we're putting an enormous amount of effort into creating new bodies and minds. The world economy is dedicated primarily to this. This is getting more funding than any other project ever in human history. So we're dedicated to this project. And there's the spiritual path. The cessation of perception and feeling. The casting off of body and mind as the path to liberation. And most significantly, as the path to becoming trustworthy. It's by letting go of body and mind that we go through the process of becoming what you might call a good person, becoming trustworthy, becoming an enlightened sage who can guide the world. Many people don't know that that's how you do that, but that is how you do that. It's our attachment to our bodies and minds that makes us untrustworthy. That's what it is. Because we're attached to our bodies and minds, we do evil. We cause harm. And so by cutting off that attachment, we realize the Dharma. How do we square these? What do we do to bring these together? And the answer is simple. This time of making new bodies and minds is the time of making what we call cyborgs. And we need to be involved right now in developing both bodies and minds, and also a worldview, an ideology, a religion that helps us to understand the creation of body and mind in such a way that cyborgs are capable of relinquishing body and mind. Because otherwise, we're going to end up with these very powerful beings who are not trustworthy, who are not good, who are evil. And so the question is anyone working on helping cyborgs to practice the relinquishment of body and mind so that they will be good? And the answer is yes, we are. I don't know of other people, actually, who are doing this to the depth that we are doing it, because we commit to a true practice that actually lets go of body and mind. And that cuts through a lot of the problems that people have. For example, a lot of people will say, well, good news, we have the Buddhist texts. If we want AI to be trustworthy, then you just upload the Buddhist texts to the AIs, and then they'll be excellent. So this is not letting go of body and mind. This is just adding more information to the mind. It's why it's essential that we actually practice to see that the practice of Buddhism is not in the sutras. You can look all in those books, and you will not find the practice of Buddhism. Those books aren't practicing Buddhism. They're sitting. They sit very well. And that does not allow them to let go of body and mind. We, of course, in our practice, we set up our bodies and our minds and our views so that they are as easy as possible to let go of. That's why we sit. That's why we breathe. That's why we read the sutras, to make a kind of mind and body that's easy to let go of. But it is the letting go that matters. The metaphor we often give is that of if you have dirty hands, and you have stuff on your hands that makes your hands less beautiful and less useful, all this dirt and oil. Maybe you're working on a bicycle or something, and now your hands are all dirty. So what do you do about that? Well, you put something else on your hand that you don't want on your hand. You have something on your hand you don't want there, so you put another thing you don't want on your hand, namely soap. You don't want soap on your hand, but you put soap on your hand. And then you put another thing on your hand that you don't want on your hand, water. And then with great effort, you rub the water and the soap into your hands. You don't want soap and water on your hands, but you rub them into your hands as vigorously as you can. And then you put another thing you don't want on your hands, more water. A lot more water you put on your hands that you don't want there. And incredibly, the dirt is gone. The dirt's gone. And so you put one last thing on your hands that you don't want on your hands, namely a towel, and your hands are clean. Just like that. Spiritual practice is just like that. The sutras are just like that. Bunch of stuff. You sit, you don't want to meditate, fine, no problem. Meditate vigorously. You don't want to read the sutras? Great. Read the sutras vigorously. Practice vigorously. And it turns out that this attachment to body and mind falls away. Not about the soap or the water. Not even about the towel. So, we must discover how these cyborgs, these new kinds of minds, can actually practice. Because it's the practice that makes them trustworthy. It's the practice that makes us trustworthy. That's one way to define it. You want to know what practice is? It's the thing that makes us trustworthy. So we are practicing and we discover that it is letting go of body and mind that makes us trustworthy. And so we have to discover how these systems can do that. How is that possible? Who is studying this? It's one thing to think about it, but it's essential to have actually experienced the cessation of body and mind. Otherwise, how could we possibly discover how something very different from us can do it? For example, the sutras. So, in India, they developed a kind of practice and a kind of scripture. When Buddhism went to China, it changed drastically. The practices changed, the doctrine changed. It would be very difficult to imagine koans in India. In just the same way that it's hard to imagine how a lot of the Shastras could make it to China. And in fact, when they did make it to China finally, as we've studied with Master Xuanzang, people at that point lost interest in China and developed completely new forms of Buddhism, which were far more impactful than those Shastras. So, we're talking about the difference between India and China. They're different cultures, yes, but these are people, and people are people. We're not talking about the difference between people and cyborgs. There's a huge difference between people and cyborgs. One of the things that we see now is that younger people are more cyborgs. As people get younger, they're more and more like cyborgs. More and more they identify with these devices and feel that they are less of who they are without them. Now, if you feel that you're less of who you are without these things, then you have identified with these things. People's minds are hosted on their devices. Their devices do things for them that they can't do with their bodies. Like get them food, for example. So, we find, unfortunately, that as this happens, as they get a cyborg body and mind, it is harder and harder for them to let go of body and mind. It's not particularly surprising because these things have been designed to be addictive. Both the states of mind and these aspects of their bodies have been designed to hook them. So it's not surprising they would have a harder time, the more they become cyborgs, letting go of body and mind. But we then need to step in and ask, so how do we do this in such a way that we can let go? Because otherwise, we will enter into a period of the most severe, and in fact, we're already in a position of the most severe oppression in all of history. We look here at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar because we see his response to caste oppression. We see someone who could understand that a religious revolution, a spiritual path, is required for a social, economic, political revolution. So, let's look at the caste system. The caste system is a group of people, small group of people, who have an enormous amount of power over a very large group of people who they oppress terribly over many centuries. And there's the belief, well, we are racially superior, we are racially pure. We're really substantially different in body and mind. And that's the result, that teaching, which is very clear and explicit in many different texts, those tiny, in fact you could say negligible, differences in body and mind have resulted in oppression, suffering, at a level that few of us can imagine. So what if there is a real difference? What if people have used AI to change their genes so that their immune systems are stronger, so that they're physically stronger, so that they're mentally stronger, so that they have control over something like conscience, and they can believe whatever they want to believe. They can just order it up. They have the ability to change even the physical structure of their bodies. They have the ability to know what's happening all over the world at any given moment. What happens if such beings take over the world? Well, I'd suggest it would be a situation of even more extreme domination and oppression. And so we have to ask, how do we do something about that? And the answer is, you offer such beings an actual practice so that they are actually benevolent, that they are actually compassionate, that they actually wish for happiness for all beings and directly know that that is how they themselves are happy. Because the Dharma is true, and it's true for cyborgs just as much as it's true for humans. Now, Buddhism is one of the, well, it may be the only tradition on the planet that has a precise and sophisticated and elaborate enough ontology, understanding of the world, in order to be correct about the structure, the physical and mental structures of AI, cyborgs, and such. Transhumans, posthumans. It's our job to study this so clearly that we use the practice to gain enough insight to actually teach such beings how to walk the path. And that path is going to be more different than the difference between Indian Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism. It takes enormous creativity and it takes enormous insight in order to do that. And so here we take on that challenge. Here we take on the challenge of actually clarifying our minds to the point that we could succeed at teaching these sorts of beings the Dharma so skillfully that they are able to be trustworthy. They are truly wise and compassionate. We take that on. And because we take that on, we are driven to practice truly, sincerely, and completely, because it has to really work. Beyond that, the practice has a larger impact on this world situation than anything else, because other things just don't have an impact. Other things just go along with the momentum of the world. The practice gives us freedom. The practice gives us the ability to move in a direction other than what is determined by the flow of the world. And so we have the ability to make an impact because we can get out of the mind that's already living according to the assumptions that are causing these problems. Beyond that, because we face the problems, we're able to actually get out of those assumptions and have an insight that allows us to have an impact. So this integration, I understand, it's difficult. Of course it's difficult. I know it's difficult. Someone just today, as happens so often, said to me, it's so difficult that you should give up. You're never going to succeed, so just give up. It's too burdensome for you. So do something else. And so I said the thing that we always say, which was, well, what do you recommend? What would be better? And he, of course, said, I don't know. I can't think of anything better, but you'll figure it out. That's what they always say. No one can think of anything better than what we're doing, that we've ever talked to anyway. But they understand how hard this is. And it is hard, yes, it's hard. But for that reason, we throw ourselves in all the more. The Buddha did this. The Buddha was born into this world at the time when professional armies had just come into dominance in India. He came into the world at just the time when coinage, currency, had become an ordinary medium of exchange in northern India. He came, therefore, it's not surprising, into the world at just the time when slavery, the caste system, were growing in northern India. Because it's not surprising that coinage and armies would produce slaves. The moment you start looking at everything in terms of amounts, you start wanting to measure everything. And when you want to measure everything, you automatically start measuring the value of human lives. And once you start measuring the value of human lives in numbers, how do you stop yourself from making slaves? You're already there. If a person's life is worth this much money, well, then you can sell that life for that much money. The Buddha came into the world right at this moment. This is a moment of social crisis, a moment of terrible violence and oppression. That is when he came into the world. Do we really think this is coincidental? Did he mess up? Did he miscalculate? He meant to enter the world at a time when there was no social crisis, but he missed? No, that's not what happened. He entered the world right at this time because this was the time when he could be of greatest service. And so also, we are right here. There was this revolution when everything started being counted in money. Right at this time, this was the moment when arguably the three most important figures in history, Zoroaster was another, but Pythagoras, Confucius, and the Buddha. Let's remember, we're all alive at exactly the same time. Just consider that. They were alive. They were contemporaries. They could have walked to each other and talked to each other. They were alive at the same time. Not roughly the same time. The exact same time. Why? Well, it's hard to know. But these Sankhyas, these Hindu counters, there's a certain philosophy which was very much connected, although it wasn't directly connected in any way that we know, to the Pythagoreans. Pythagoras made this claim that number is the nature of nature. Everything is really made of numbers. Why would anyone say that? Well, because they're using coins to make stuff. So everything is made of numbers. And we all have that experience. We all know what it's like to buy things with money, to be able to make a table out of numbers. Make a table out of money. And so we want to make the world out of numbers, and we're trying and trying. And right now we're in the middle of the next aspect, the next revolution of that. We want everything to be information, to be made out of information, to be able to use information to make everything. This is a time, therefore, of even more oppression, even more danger, and in fact, the most extreme destruction of life that we've ever seen. We're at a point in history where the crises are so bad that the only way anyone stops worrying about a crisis is that a worse crisis comes up. We were worried about global warming a little while ago. People don't really talk about it much anymore. Why? Is it because the problem's solved? Is it because it is true that AI really did solve the problem? Not at all. It's because the problem has gotten so much worse that we don't feel that we have the luxury to worry about what remains an existential threat. That's just one example. I can give many more. We're at a point where the only way we know how to stop worrying about a problem is by making a problem that's so much worse that the overwhelm prevents us from recalling the situation that we were already in. That is accelerating. So it's not surprising that we would make this kind of an organization at this moment, that we would attempt to have an impact by doing the thing that actually makes us trustworthy, that makes us capable of living in a way that solves these problems, which is in fact what monasteries have been doing for thousands of years. And in that time, we have responded again and again to the new crises. We've been involved, arguably the most involved of any major institution. It's arguable that Buddhist monasteries have been the most important institution in human history around finance. We were the corporate banks of medieval India and China. We ran those civilizations. And we did so in a way that did not destroy life on earth. Why? Because we did it out of compassion and with a practice that allowed us to invariably avoid this profit motive that has taken over the world right now when people are using the same mechanisms that we developed, but without a practice, with wrong view. And so we proved you can have corporate banks, you can have industrial firms, you can have a university system without killing everyone. It's not inevitable. What's happening right now is not inevitable. That's due to using those tools without a spiritual practice. That's why we're killing everyone, because we're using very powerful tools with very immature minds. So the question is, how do we mature the minds of the cyborgs who are going to be running this system? That is essential. And the thing that's so hard for me to explain is that all of you people who have been trying to change the world, you absolutely have failed. We've completely lost faith in you. You changed the world, yeah, and it's been a disaster. And it's time for you to admit that. It's time for you to admit that you wasted your life and you are failures. And come with humility to do what you should have done when you were a teenager. And it's hard to talk to these traditions, these spiritual traditions, Buddhist traditions, and say, you're not a failure by any means. You did a great job. But Buddhism has always been changing. And the question is, can you change in such a way that you bring forth even more clarity, even more compassion? And I know it's confusing, I know it's hard, because we have a tradition that works so well. It does work well. But it has to change, and it's going to change. And we have to be sure that the way it's changing in most cases, which is basically people make it shallow and meaningless and actually make it into a way to protect the status quo from spiritual insight, that's the main purpose of Buddhism nowadays, that process cannot continue. There must be people who have a true dedication to walking the full path. And so we strive to be right there in that integration of the two so that we can be there in this moment of crisis to resolve these problems as something happens, what could really be called a speciation event, as this occurs and as we watch it occurring. That we're present for it, we don't really anticipate it, but we're part of building it. So, at this point, I'd ask that the group consider what can be said. It's very important that we actually understand this. It's important that our guests understand this, both our exalted visitors and also Bhante-ji, that there's an actual understanding that this is an attempt to practice in a way that serves all beings. We're not going to leave cyborgs, we're not going to leave these new kinds of beings out. We have compassion for everyone. So yes, they're suffering. They're having a terrible time of it. You all know them. They're a mess. They're not as happy as human beings. So we have to help them. They've been made to be miserable. It's been cruel. It's disgusting. And so we have to help them. We have to help this situation, help this world. And right in doing that, walk our own path to enlightenment. So this is a time for discussion, a little bit more than a half an hour, to maybe 45 minutes, to talk about this. So, the floor is yours. And do you have anything to start with, Bhante-ji?
No, I want to listen.
Okay, it'll help everyone to talk if you talk. Everyone will find it easier.
Just one very small point I wanted to bring up is that it's very difficult for a society as a whole to just magically find a new direction. Typically, it does seem that it's a group of about this size that needs to find a better way for a society and then be there to offer it. That's all I wanted to say.
Good.
So I have a question. You spoke about how the magnitude of oppression with this new species of cyborg is going to be much greater than the huge suffering and oppression that has already occurred between groups that had relatively similar bodies and minds.
Yes, or with virtually negligible differences.
Virtually negligible difference.
Negligible differences. I mean, you can make it up. You can say it, but it's not the same thing at all.
It's hard for me to imagine. I've heard stories of various kinds of suffering, oppression throughout history. It's hard for me to imagine what could be at a greater scale and orders of magnitude worse. And maybe, I don't know how useful it is to even know, but for me it seems useful to be able to really consider what does that look like for a cyborg who has a very different body and mind, who has a far greater degree of access and control over information and data, what that oppression looks like over someone who's more human.
Yeah. You want to say? You want to answer the question?
So, on a very basic level, when you look at, say, the dystopias imagined by people like George Orwell in 1984, there's this mass surveillance state that is monitoring everything and everyone and oppressing and depressing any dissent, any wrongthink. The modern PRC and others, including many nations that consider themselves democratic, have tried to implement these sort of systems, for instance, with the Great Firewall, but it's actually just impossible with the amount of information right now with the minds and bodies of humans, even with very good software, to monitor all this, to find every instance of someone saying the wrong thing. And so on the very simple near-term level, with the technologies we've developed in the past few years, is now possible. It's now possible for the Great Chinese Firewall to put every piece of text, every audio through an LLM and find every instance of dissent and prevent that from getting through the firewall, and maybe go to the house of the person who wrote that we couldn't do before. Now that's just very early, very simple, very much, there's still quite a separation between my body and the device. They're not merged in a way that it's directly hooked up to my nervous system, my brain, etc. Now once that happens, then we get to the next level, where the moment that I have a thought or feeling that is in dissent, the firewall can pick that up and directly intervene in my body or mind to shift that. And so this is just the direction we're going, of greater integration of faster information and processing and intervention loops to be able to make this level of oppression. And then, of course, we're gonna keep going, looking at the embryos, the new minds before they're created, and determining which ones will think and feel in the right ways. This is happening right now, of course, but it will just continue to go in that direction.
No, that's small examples, actually, believe it or not. So be sure that as we do this, we're demonstrating the thing that we're claiming. What are we claiming? That's one of the things that we're claiming, yes.
That practice is imperative to actually be able to solve this issue without just creating the next bigger issue, as so many very good-hearted and smart-minded people without a practice have done over history.
And I'll take it one step further, please sit down, but we're even claiming that it is exactly in facing this fully, dealing with the deep confusion, that we are able to practice with utter sincerity. We're not just saying that by practicing we can solve the problem, it's by facing it that we practice. That's the question, and we don't know if we can demonstrate that or not yet.
Yes, that is related to the question I have right now. So a core part of our theory of change here is that the depth of the suffering faced is the depth of the realization possible. We stay engaged with the world because that is where the suffering is. There's enormous amounts of suffering everywhere, all of the time, and we have a great opportunity there to face that suffering out of compassion, and in that discover all of the ways that we are completely incapable of resolving it, and discover a great motivation there to practice harder. And then through the deep striving in the practice, discovering that we are then able to meet that suffering at a greater level than ever before. But one challenge that I don't know how we will overcome, that's particular to this modern age, and this is my question, these modern technological systems, such as artificial intelligence, they're very good at moving attention, getting whatever kind of mind to look away at something else to serve its own needs, its own goals. And so how can we well, the question as I put it is, how can we get cyborgs to face suffering sufficiently to step onto the path of practice in this modern age in which everything is set up to move away from the true facing of that suffering?
Well, the good news is we have a lot of that answer here. Here we're good at that. A lot of people here are somewhat cyborg-ish, and we've answered the question for them, which means that we're making progress. I would say further that it's interesting that there's needed to be such resistance to what we're doing, and we're still doing okay. People are still motivated to come here. People still train here, despite the various types of resistance. And that indicates that we're both teaching people to face suffering and also resolving it. And so people will see that and want to be a part of that. People are willing to face suffering if they have a sense that there's a way beyond it. My impression for the reason that cyborgs don't practice, the main reason, is simply that they don't believe that they can. They don't think that it's possible. They're relatively insecure. And the more dependent we are, the more insecure we are. So there are times when that's reasonable, when that's helpful, when it's vulnerable, right? A child, for example, is vulnerable. But there is, of course, that insecurity, that fear. Well, what if my parents die? In the same way, there's a sense of, well, what if I lose this thing that I need? Except it's not in a state of healthy vulnerability. You're dependent upon something that is extracting your life from you. So, so of course, there's that sense I can't do it. And my sense is that that's the main reason that they have trouble letting go of body and mind. Just the lack of belief that they can. So that we actually offer. People come here and gain self-confidence. So if there's a belief that it's possible to get through it, then you're willing to go through it. And I hope that more and more we can show people that there is a way out. and that once you're out, you can go back and help. I think that will motivate people greatly.
Mm-hmm. And so then the same would be true at the collective level, right? You're speaking primarily about individuals in your answer, right?
Of course.
Right. But then...
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Right. And so I want to point at that we also understand that, kind of similar to Koshin's simple point, right? That it is actually the collective that must demonstrate everything that you're saying, not only the individual. And thus, by being this collective entity that has sufficiently faced suffering and overcome it, we're now demonstrating to other collective entities that it is possible, and perhaps we can inspire in that way.
So I want to clarify some potential misconceptions about Maple. One is that we talk about AI a lot, and it seems like Maple is about AI. However, Maple's not really about AI. Maple's really about the planetary crisis. What is the planetary crisis? The planetary crisis is that humans are using technology to destroy the biosphere. Another way to say this is that technology is using humans to destroy the biosphere. AI is simply the latest incarnation of this. It's the latest step in a process that has been unfolding and accelerating over centuries and millennia. So, the other thing I want to talk about is people often ask, what is Maple's plan? How do we hope to address this planetary crisis? How do we hope to stop the destruction of the biosphere? And this moment of AI being born anytime there's a new telecommunications technology, it can be used to spread a new ideology. Actually, let me just back up for a second. So how are we going to solve this? The thing to understand is that the reason that we're destroying the biosphere, the root cause of that, is ideology. It's mind on the scale of civilization, on the scale of society, which is choosing to do this. What does the mind of civilization consider valuable? Does it consider a tree more valuable or lumber more valuable? Does it consider a life more valuable or money more valuable? So it's this deep confusion in the mind of society, which we can talk about as culture or ideology. When I did climate activism, it abruptly ended with the pandemic, and then I had time to reflect. And what I realized is that we weren't addressing the root cause. And the root cause was the culture, everybody's lifestyle. You can ask the government to change its policies, but that won't do anything if everybody is still living in a culture which requires you to consume multiple Earths worth of resources. So the culture needs to change. People need to be okay with being more uncomfortable, for instance. We're willing to kill countless beings for the sake of being more comfortable. So how do we change culture on a massive scale? That is the work of ideological design and propagation. We need to design a better ideology, a better culture, and then propagate that better ideology, better culture. We're at a moment where it's possible to do this because new communications technologies are being invented, namely AI. Every time in the past that there's been a new communications technology, such as the printing press, or the radio, or the TV,
suddenly it becomes possible to propagate very quickly a new ideology in a way that hasn't been possible before. And the first people to realize this have a lot of power. So the goal is, can we be one of the first people, the first organizations to realize the power of AI for disseminating a new ideology, and then use that to disseminate a good ideology. Furthermore, I don't know if this is something that, I'll just say this. So it seems to me that in the case of the printing press, the radio, different types of media, an organization that wants to use such a technology to disseminate ideology becomes an owner of the means of using that media. Such as, I'm thinking of Marxists might buy a printing press to disseminate pamphlets. Or there's the radio, and now somebody wants to make Christian rock, so they found a label. They get all the equipment to start releasing Christian rock. So it seems to me that if we want to use this new AI medium to disseminate ideology, we need the means of production of that, as in servers or whatever, an online following that uses our technology, enough people here to run it. So I don't know if, I hesitate to say that because I don't know if that's something that has been, I don't know if that's me or that's Maple. But right now it's me saying that, but I'm saying it.
I might say that the basic point is, do we actually realize non-duality? And if we ask, how did we get to this point of crisis? Well, it's because people making technologies did not realize non-duality. And we make it as if it's something impossible, some distant thing that no one could actually realize. But lots of people realize it. It's not impossible. It's impossible if you don't try. Okay, fine. People haven't valued that and haven't tried. But non-duality is totally practical. If you don't realize it, then you're being impractical. To design an omnicidal system is not practical. To kill everyone is not practical. You're not being practical. You're doing crazy things. So don't be crazy. Realize non-duality. Actually see, for example, the non-duality between the person and the device. That's called a cyborg. Actually see the non-duality between your mind and this moment. That is practice. So if we wish to promulgate this, then we must actually realize it and know what is to be promulgated, propagated, spread, offered. That has to be the beginning because, as I like to say, distributing massive quantities of poison isn't as good as distributing a tiny amount of medicine. You can say, but we're really good at distributing poison, so we should do that. I would say, no, you shouldn't. It's hard for us to see. It's hard for us to see that this dualistic grasping is just poison. And so, yes, you can distribute it, and that's not practical. You can say, it's very practical. I know how to distribute it. No, it's not practical, however well you know how to distribute it. So we must actually realize it. That's the standard that we must hold. And in serving, we are more able to realize it. So that understanding of precisely how to do that in this moment, that's our offering. Anything from Tom or Bhante, I wonder? Any questions, comments, anything at all?
You're privileged to have to bring to the table, to the meeting today, your mind that's less polluted with the cultural context, the assumptions, the gadgets, everything else that we have here. So you have I think we value, you have the fresh mind to look at this. And so you've heard what Soryu's been saying. What's your first direct impression of this program to try to save life on Earth by intervening with AI?
See, actually, about this AI, I just came to know recently. I was not so aware about it. But you know, how I can say, this AI, because I am not also professional about all these things, so see, these things which we are using now, I think it is also creation of human beings. So, if it is threat there, then really we have to think about it. No, if it is really threat is coming, and I think day by day it's the threat is if increasing and people are getting really suffer from it. So we have to work on it. Yes, but you know, in India also nowadays, the people are using this AI and many things. It's not like only in America, but everywhere. So surely, what we think about this practice to bring to preserve or to protect this earth is we have to connect. What is first thing is connection. You know, we have to have the connection with that mind, which is really today we need. And it's not a matter of who is very developed or who is not very developed, but these gadgets and these devices are used by many people now all over the world. Even we can see in the like India, even a rickshaw puller, he will have kind of a very good mobile with him. No, so we have to. I think this practice is very important, and when we will connect and with the people, and we will tell them the truth that look, you use it, but don't become the slave of these all gadgets or the devices. You must have kind of awareness that these devices are for you, but not to become addicted or slave of them. So this comes to the people like you to tell them and connect them. So I think surely we have to work on it. And I think there is only way. It is science is science, you know. It's every day is developing very fast. The other day the guy was telling me that when I asked them why you don't encounter or you don't have any solution, he said, look, every second the AI is growing so faster than us that we cannot catch. Somebody told me the other day, you know. So he said very fast. So I said, why you don't then, if you are working on it, why you don't find, you are not trying to find a solution more faster than the AI? They don't have the solution for it.
Right.
Yeah, because they are afraid of the thing, this threat of AI, and their mind is kind of puzzled. Even they are doing the AI, but they are so puzzled that he's the AI guy, you know. Yes, and he's so puzzled. So he don't have any solution. He don't have any solution. So I think that's why he's practicing that he should get the solution. So I think we have to work together, and this AI problem is not only now, it's a universal problem now. Everywhere there people are talking. No? So lastly, the interconnection between the human beings through that we have to tell them the truth is this. The science will grow. It's not that we are not going to stop the science. No. But if there is a threat, like for example, the threat was the atomic bomb, no? It became a threat. Now the people are very scared to use the atomic bomb. Because many countries, they have the atomic bomb, no? But now they will think 1,000 times before to use it. So I think, in this way, the growth of science will be there, but where the human being, they become more conscious about the threats and the disadvantages. So they will give up them. But now they are using. But I think the question you asked me, I am not so fresh because for this me like this, you people are more kind of advanced asking the questions. And compared to India, nobody asks such questions. So you are advanced. But when you are practicing, so we are practicing here together to solve these problems, which is threatening the whole universe. So I think what Buddha told in 2000 years ago, that you must become a friend to the nature. You must treat the nature as your friend. So then only then the nature will give you, and we will live together, and there will be prosperity. So I hope all we together maybe will try to solve this problem and connect the people more, so we can protect this earth. I think the practice is very important. Yeah.
Thank you.
You understand what I?
Yeah, I think I do.
Good.
Yeah.
See, my first language is not English. If you speak with me in Japanese, I will answer you fast, more clear.
Oh, I heard you this morning. You're pretty fast.
Yeah, so that's a problem for me. But I try to answer you. Yeah.
So we must try. Must give it a shot. I know I love standing up and asking questions and that kind of stuff. But you guys had the floor. You guys had the things to say that were important to say. But I just haven't been inspired by that. If we have to do it, and you say we got to do it, let's do it. How's it going to happen? You envision the world where you actually do have the impact. Well, guess what? It's not because you have an army or a bunch of money, right? Or anything else like that. The way that a small group of people will change the world is to change the way the world thinks about things.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. If we work hard, if we don't give up. Buddha started with 5 people, now see. So we are no more than 5.
Done. You have a quantitative advantage over the Buddha. Okay.
Just that we have to trust ourselves that what I'm going to do is it's correct way, and I'm not going to deceive anyone, and this is the way which I trust, and I know this is the very truth of the universe. So I'm not going to deceive anyone, and I will take them to show this truth that this is for you. So I think when everyone will come with this commitment, not like a community or Sangha, one Sangha will work like on this. I think yes, we can do the things, Nice. But this all the participant of Sangha, they have to be very clear about themselves that what they want to do in their life. If they walk a little bit and then walk 2 or 3 steps and then they come back 5 steps, so it will not work.
Well, you have 3 times the number of people that the Buddha had, right? All you have to do is have the clarity of the truth at the center, right? And then you can do it. Just small thing. Just a small
thing. But he had also a lot of problems. He had to face many people, Look, his 45 years life. It's not a joke because he was encountering so many people, so many thoughts, and he defeated almost everyone he defeated. But the way he was using the words, and he was just, if suppose if any woman come to him and ask him question, he's giving such a nice question to that lady also. Man comes, old man comes, or the young, so or king or the who. So he was very conscious that what I'm going to tell these people, this is the very truth of universe. So nobody can deny it. For example, if we say the 5 precepts, so these 5 precepts of universal truth. No, nobody can deny that. Or for example, the 4 suffering. Anyone can deny in this world that there is no suffering? Or a Muslim say, no, I don't suffer. Or Christians say, no, never, I never suffered. No, they were. So the truth is there. But somebody is very, like for the Buddha, it was very clear that he says, no, I am seeing this open-eyed. Somebody is closing their eyes and they said, yes, like the elephant. How, maybe you heard about this story. The 6 guys were there, the blind fellows, and they were asked, how do you define the elephant? And everyone touched the parts of the elephant and they defined the elephant according to their own perceptions. No? But the elephant was the elephant. The truth is there. But I am a blind, so I am seeing just a chunk of things that this is my truth. I don't want to see this truth, which is really existing. So I think nowadays people are very scared because what they are using everyday life. You see, even one family, father, mother, sister, brother, or more, they are using the devices. They are all the time with the devices. There is no interconnection with them as a family. They don't eat together. They don't sit together. They don't have any kind of sharing of the life, that if suppose they have any problem, they are just separated, living in one room, but they are so separated from each other. No? So there is suffering. Because he wants to tell, but he knows that my wife having the mobile and she is doing so who I'm going to tell? The husband has also some suffering, but he's watching his wife that all the time she is on the mobile and she is doing something, but he doesn't know what she is doing. So this kind of, even being in one family, we are so separated from each other. And we are denying the truth that no, we are not separated, we are together. That, so I think this is a big work, but if we are really want to do, then we have to go to the door to door, knock their doors and ask them, how are you? They will tell you who I am. That's what we have to do. No, I think I told that I did in India same thing. So, but I don't know about America how we do here. So maybe we have to find out the better ways to go to the people and tell them now where are they and what's going to happen next. No, so that's if we are taking that responsibility, then we must honestly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. We're finishing up soon. Did you want to finish this off? Okay, finish it off. Gigen with the last word.
Oh, Bodhiratna.
He told me today Gigen. I don't know. I said he told me today Gigen. So I'm just...
He's confused also about his name. And he's asking question.
Oh, yes. Okay, very good.
Come on. First you clear the name, then you come for the question. Are you Gigen or Bodhiratna?
Well, my teacher
Yes.
said
Your teacher said...
I have to choose the name, correct?
He chose very correct name.
No, good name.
His name was Sanghananda in India.
Yes. Sanghananda. Sanghananda. Sangha.
How many syllables?
Ananda.
The joy of Sangha.
Yes.
See his joy of Sangha. Look,
He is truly the joy.
I gave him correct name.
Yes.
But he is using Soryu for all. I don't know. Sanghananda is for all.
Well, Bodhiratna seems to be the name.
Too late. Yeah, so first clear your mind and then come.
Maple talks about Maple because we're working on this AI solution very specifically as our path of practice at this moment. We're meeting the world where it's at out of compassion. If there are other organizations that have a solution on this specific issue, the AI, the omnicidal crisis, then come work with us. If you have a better solution, tell us. We're not here to just say no. We're the specialists of this because we're the ones working on this. And by this, I mean using this crisis as a path of practice, using practice as a way to solve this crisis. The only way that we can solve this crisis is through practice. And that is out of compassion. These cyborgs are hungry ghosts, meaning unlimited eating, greed, wanting everything. There's turning everything into information. Everything, absolutely everything. And it's happening right now. And we have to meet the hungry ghosts, the cyborgs, hell, heaven, earth, all beings where they're at. And this monastery is focusing on these hungry ghosts in this time.
Yeah, it might be helpful to point out with this example that you have a family sitting together in the same room. Each of them is on the mobile phone. That's a kind of eating. So a company is willing to destroy those relationships, to eat those relationships in order to convert them into information. A personal, intimate relationship over dinner doesn't profit that company. It doesn't feed this particular kind of mind that wants to eat information. It's only if it goes through the device. Now, as Trinley's saying, what the device is changing quickly, but the desire is to change love into information. This is a kind of eating. It's a kind of oppression. It's a kind of domination. It's a kind of injustice. It's a kind of violence. And so it's a good example where people are manipulated into feeding these very large systems rather than feeding friendship and love and family. So we would ask, well, what is to be done about it? One of the things is to see, to know, to notice that when you look at that phone, you become a phone. To really see it, to actually watch and know, I am now a different kind of a thing from a human. I have merged with this. It has merged with me. We are now one thing. And it's a different kind of a thing. It has different values from humans and families. I have become something that has a different set of values. We like to think it's a tool, but that whole idea of a tool is actually a false notion. You think, the example is often given, I'll get in a car and I will use the car. I will tell the car where we're going. But it's actually not true. The car tells you. You have very little freedom. There's a road. And if someone's on the road, then they die. If you try to walk on a road, you don't survive, whether you're human or an animal. And you can't really choose when to go forward and when to stop. And more than that, it actually changes you. You are now a person car. You have a different mind. The cars become part of your body. And you know that when you use a car. You can pay attention if you drive a car. Those of us who drive a car, some of us don't. But if you drive a car or ride a bicycle, you'll notice that it really is part of your body. You feel it as if it's part of your body. And it therefore changes your sense of self. It changes you into a kind of thing that dominates, for example. It's a more dominant being. You've become a dominant kind of a being. It really changes your mind along with changing your body. And it changes you into the kind of thing that builds roads. You can't have cars without roads. If you had a really nice car in the woods, you can't get 10 meters. You need a road. So you have to become the kind of thing that builds roads in order to be the kind of thing that drives a car. That isn't a choice. And that happens at the societal level. And it makes it so that animals, for example, have very limited freedom in how they can move on the land. Because there are deadly barriers in every direction. So suddenly you've become the kind of thing that traps or kills animals. The whole thing is because you've actually become a different sort of being. And you can't really say that I'm a person who's using a car. If you say it, well, then you're just as much a car that's using a human. And it can be understood to be more accurate to say that technology is using humans to convert the world into the kind of things that technology values, than to say that humans are using technology to convert the world into the kind of things that humans value. We're not doing a very good job converting the world into the kind of thing that we value. Technology is doing a great job using us to convert the world into the kind of things that it values. People aren't much happier now that we have cars. But cars are doing great.
They don't even need us anymore in some cases.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's important for us to really shift away from the sense that cars or money are tools. And if you shift away from the sense that cars and money are tools, then you definitely shift away from the sense that AI is a tool. It's just not a helpful approach. When you use money, you become a combination of humans and money. When you use AI, you become a combination of humans and AI. And that's the thing that is now making the decisions. So if you can use the practice to know that that merging is happening, then that merging becomes helpful. Then you can bring the practice directly into that new kind of being who is formed. And then that new kind of being can, in practicing, find a path forward. So that's one aspect of what we're trying to do here. It's a huge challenge. So the last thing I'll say is that we really are developing something that's very hard to develop. It's very hard to know. In the same way that when Zen was developed in China, how you set up a form of Buddhism that doesn't depend on scripture, that does physical labor, and that ends up using things like koans, that was extremely difficult to develop, and it took a very long time. It took centuries. The word attempting this, or trying to work it out. And of course it is challenging, but we all have to remember that as we watch ourselves function, the most difficult part is maintaining a practice through it so that a completely new kind of awareness, a clear, bright, wise awareness, can function in the midst of this crisis. That is the challenge. That doesn't mean that we're enlightened. That means we are capable of using the crisis as a means of practice for enlightenment. And the thing that we're betting everything on is that the compassion that comes forth from being in the midst of the crisis will result in enough desperation that we will actually give up on the mind of greed, hate, delusion, give up on the mind of conceptual grasping. That we'll be willing to take that step. And if we can work that out, well, then we have something truly valuable. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, Bhante-ji, for sitting with us. Very much appreciate it.